Even before Marques Johnson coined the term point forward, John Johnson, or simply JJ, was stuffing the stat sheet in the early 70s. His abilities were rare at the time as he could do a bit of everything, but his biggest asset was his passing. He could throw an outlet to start the break, thread the needle with a bounce pass to a cutter, or fire the ball inside for an easy layup. After a dominant 2 years at Iowa, John became the first draft pick of the Cleveland Cavaliers in 1970. Being on the expansion team gave him the freedom to handle the ball, as he impacted every facet of the game, recording 5 triple-doubles and making 2 All-Star games in his 3 years with the Cavs. After he left Cleveland, he bounced around a few teams, as his versatility was valuable, no matter how many minutes he played. But once he got to Seattle, they had a more team-oriented style that encouraged ball movement, something that suited John to a T, as he was the glue guy for their title team in 1979. John was an extremely unique player for his era, but since he never put up amazing stats, he's often forgotten as the original point forward. Welcome to PZ Hoops, and let's get down to it. John was born on October 18, 1947 in Carthage, Mississippi. He played his high school ball at Mesmer in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, leading them to a state title as a senior. After graduation, he played for Northwest College in Powell, Wyoming, then transferred to the University of Iowa as a junior. John was the leader of a Hawkeyes team that was experiencing a down year. They started the season ranked, but they quickly lost it. Despite the lack of team success, John was cementing his status as a pro prospect, jumping 46 points on Milwaukee and grabbing 23 rebounds against Northwestern. The Hawkeyes defense was near the bottom in the country, so they finished with a 12-12 record. John averaged 20 points and 11 rebounds on 50% shooting. John would get some help in 1969, as Iowa brought in JUCO transfer Fred Brown, as his scoring really boosted their offense. But the Hawkeyes had a rough start to the season, losing their season opener to Southern Illinois, as they were 3-4 entering conference play. But the Hawkeyes would do a complete 180, going undefeated in the Big Ten to save their season, and clinched their first trip to the Big Dance in 14 years. John had an insane senior year, dropping the school record 49 points on Northwestern. He also set single-season records for points, field goals, and PPG. The Hawkeyes had the best offense in the country, as they had 4 players averaging over 17 points a game. John was named to the All-Big Ten First Team and Third Team All-America, with averages of 28 points and 10 rebounds on 57% shooting. Their first tournament game was against Jacksonville, a team who had come out of nowhere and became national title contenders. But Iowa was hanging with them the whole way, as Fred Brown hit a shot late to put them up 1. But Pembroke Burrows would hit a game-winning tip-in to stun the Hawkeyes. John had 19 points and 8 rebounds in this game, but Iowa faced Notre Dame in a consolation game, as they were blowing them out by 33 points at the half, as they easily won. John dropped 31 points and 9 rebounds to counteract Austin Carr's 45 points and 10 rebounds. But after a dominant career at Iowa, John was ready to go pro, so he put his name in the 1970 NBA draft. He was selected with the 7th pick by the expansion Cleveland Cavaliers, as he was also chosen by the ABA's Dallas Chaparrals. As you might expect, the Cavs were pretty weak, but they had some promising young guys outside of John. Bingo Smith was the 6th pick of last year's draft by San Diego, but the Rockets didn't retain him. Walt Wesley was entering his 5th year, but he had been a bench player so far in the league. And John Warren was another first-round pick last year, but the Knicks didn't protect him as well. John was the immediate starter at the 3, as it wouldn't take long for him to show his talent, dropping 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists on the 3rd game of the season. He put up 21 points, 13 rebounds, and 6 assists on October 30th against Cincinnati, and 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists a week later against Milwaukee. John was showing rare versatility at the forward spot, but the Cavs were terrible, losing 24 of their first 25 games, with their only win being against Portland, another expansion team. John would drop his first career triple-double the day after Christmas against Buffalo, with 33 points, 12 rebounds, and 12 assists. He had a pretty productive rookie season, recording 3 30-point games, 10 double-doubles, and 2 games with double-digit assists, being named Cleveland's first All-Star. Outside of John, Walt Wesley and Bingo Smith showed that they could produce in bigger roles, as Cleveland had 3 other double-figure scorers, but they still had a lot of work to do, finishing 15 and 67. John averaged 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Cavs made some upgrades in 1971, as they drafted Austin Carr with the #1 pick and signed Butch Beard after he finished his military service. Now with a great scorer like Austin on the team, John would get a lot of assists this year. He dropped a triple-double in the 9th game of the season against Atlanta. This would be one of 4, good enough for 3rd in the league. He would drop his career high of 40 points along with 8 assists the day after Christmas against Baltimore, followed by 37 points and 12 rebounds on 70% shooting 3 days later. Even though the Cavs still weren't winning, John was really stuffing the stat sheet, averaging 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists in the month of March. Austin would only play in 43 games after he broke his foot, but Butch had a career year and joined John in the All-Star game. John was proven to be one of the better passers in the league, finishing 13th in assists, but the Cavs were taking their lumps as a new team. But 23-59 was a step in the right direction. John averaged 17 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 5 assists. With the addition of Lenny Wilkens and a fully healthy Austin, John's shot attempts went down in 1972, but he was still a productive starter, dropping 24 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists in the season opener. He put up a season-high 30 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists on December 17th against Houston. John would contribute in all areas of the game, dropping 17 20-point games, 11 double-doubles, and 28 games with at least 5 assists. Lenny and Austin both scored over 20 points a game, while John and Rick Roberson were the only other double-figure scorers. However, their offense was inefficient, ranking last in points and second to last in field goal percentage. The defense saw the biggest improvement as the Cavs won 32 games this year. John averaged 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Cavs wanted to get some draft capital, so John and Rick were sent to Portland for a first and third round pick. John went from one losing team to another as the Blazers were only in their 4th year of existence. With 2 solid scorers in Jeff Petrie and Sidney Wicks, John would thrive as a secondary ball handler. In his Blazers debut, he dropped 24 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals. He dropped a triple-double on December 13th against Phoenix and recorded 12 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, and 3 blocks on March 19th against Cleveland. John had 18 double-doubles, and he was showing some two-way potential as well, recording 6 games with at least 3 steals and 5 games with multiple blocks. Portland was still an extremely young team, as a lot of their main players were under 25. Jeff and Sidney both averaged over 20 points a game, while Larry Steele led the league in steals. But the Blazers defense allowed the highest field goal percentage in the league, so they finished with a 27-55 record. John averaged 16 points, 7.5 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. The Blazers received the #1 pick in 1974, as they selected a generational talent in Bill Walton. However, he dealt with injuries already, only playing in 35 games, but John continued to start and would play well. He continued his streak of great season openers with 29 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals. He put up 32, 12, and 4 against Houston, and a season-high 35 points and 10 rebounds against New York. John's efficiency had improved a lot this year too, placing him in the top 20 for field goal percentage. The Blazers were building something nice, as a healthy Bill Walton would have brought them to the playoffs, but the 38-44 record was respectable. John averaged 16 points, 6.5 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. John wouldn't be a part of Portland's rise, as 9 games into the season, he was traded to the Houston Rockets for Steve Hawes. Although Houston wasn't that much better than Portland, John would experience something new, coming off the bench, as Ed Ratliff started at the 3. John's minutes were inconsistent and his production dipped. He was still putting up numbers, dropping 14 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals in 25 minutes against Atlanta, and 21 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals in his only start of the year. Ed's stats as a starter weren't that much better than John's, but the Rockets had a bigger issue, as they allowed the most points in the league. In a strong Central Division, Houston's 40-42 record wasn't enough to make the playoffs. John averaged 10 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 3 assists. Ed's production dipped a lot in 1976, but John would still come off the bench, as Houston used a 3-guard lineup with Calvin Murphy, first overall pick John Lucas, and Mike Newland. They also traded for a promising big man Moses Malone, as he would form a great front court with Rudy. John was inserted into the starting lineup on November 20th against the Kings, putting up 30 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists on 14 of 17 shooting. He would put up decent stats as the Rockets went 13-9 when he started. Houston's additions really helped them, as their defense went from dead last to 7th, as their 49-33 record secured them a playoff berth. John averaged 9 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 2 assists. The Rockets faced the Bullets in the semifinals, but John would be buried on the bench for his first playoffs. He put up 11 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists in a Game 5 win, as the Rockets won in 6, facing the Sixers in the conference finals. John dropped 13 in Game 1 and 10 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists in Game 2, but these were both losses. The series was relatively close, but the Rockets lost in 6. John was traded to the Celtics in the offseason for 2 second-round picks, but Boston would sell him back to Houston. The Rockets would trade him again 4 days later to the Sonics for 2 more second-round picks. Seattle was a team that prided themselves on team ball and defense, and John would find a role off the bench as a Swiss Army knife. He dropped 22 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks on Christmas against the Lakers, and 26 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals on March 21st against Cleveland. He was one of 6 players to average double figures, with defense being Seattle's biggest strength. Bobby Hopkins was fired after a 5-17 start, but after the hiring of John's former teammate Lenny Wilkens, the team did a complete 180, finishing 47-35 as John averaged 11 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. He dropped double figures twice in the first round series win against the Lakers. They faced Portland in the second round, as John dropped 18 points and 5 rebounds in Game 3. Seattle won in 6 games, faced the Denver Nuggets in the conference finals. John was playing great in this one, averaging 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists on 51% shooting in the first 5 games, as the Sonics continued to win, making their first ever finals, facing the Washington Bullets. John dropped 18 points and 10 rebounds in a Game 1 win, but he would struggle after this, shooting 25% in the next 4 games. Seattle was up 3-2 with a chance to close it out on the road, but they would get blown out as they lost Game 7 at home to lose the finals. The sting of watching the opposing team celebrate a championship on their home floor was Seattle's main motivation in 1978. John would be a starter again as he was allowed to play his game. He wasn't scoring like he used to, but that wasn't needed, as Dennis and Gus were the scorers, so John was often the primary playmaker. He dropped 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists on December 29th against Phoenix, and 17 points, 9 rebounds, and a career-high 13 assists on March 27th against San Diego. The Sonics ran like a well-oiled machine this year, as their defense was tops in the league, finishing 52-30. John averaged 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists as the Sonics faced the Lakers in the semifinals. He dropped 2 20-point games as Seattle won in 5. The conference finals brought the Suns as John averaged 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists on 61% shooting in games 2 through 5. Seattle won a close Game 7 to make it back to the finals, rematching the Bullets. He dropped 14 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals in a Game 1 loss. He put up similar numbers over the next 2 games, both Seattle wins. He played 15 minutes in the overtime Game 4 win, dropping 6 points, 9 rebounds, and 13 assists. The Sonics won a close Game 5 on the road to close out the series, exacting their revenge and giving John his first ring. John was given a bigger role in 1979 for their title defense, as he was the main facilitator. On December 8th against Golden State, he recorded a near 5-by-5 game with 15 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. The next game after that, he put up 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 11 assists. John only had 3 20-point games, but he had 3 double-doubles and 6 games with double-digit assists. He had the best passing season of his career, leading the team in assists and ranking 17th overall. Seattle's trio was playing well as usual, while Fred Brown shot 44% from deep in the first year of the three-point line. The Sonics still kept their defensive identity as they finished 56-26. John averaged 11 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal as Seattle faced Portland in the first round. John dropped 21, 7, and 4 in Game 1, and 18, 8, and 3 in Game 2 to help the Sonics win the series in 3 games. In the semifinals against Milwaukee, John played his all-around game, averaging 11 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists on 50% shooting, with 3 double-doubles in the 7-game series win for Seattle. They faced the Lakers in the conference finals, but the addition of Magic made them extremely tough to beat, although John nearly had a triple-double in Game 3 with 19, 9, and 9. This would be the third of 4 straight losses for the Sonics, as they were eliminated. Gus was in a contract dispute with the team all summer, and since both sides couldn't agree on terms, he chose to sit out the entire 1980 season, which was a major blow to the team. Seattle brought in Paul Westphal to replace his scoring, but they had to give up Dennis, so Seattle was noticeably worse this year. John was still a starter at 33, especially since Paul Westphal and Lonnie Shelton missed so much time with injuries. On October 18th against Kansas City, he dropped 26 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and a career-high 5 steals. A month later against Houston, he dropped 24 points and 9 assists on 9 of 12 shooting. He had 4 double-doubles and 3 games with double-digit assists in the month of November alone. Seattle still had a solid defense, but without Gus, they were completely lost offensively. Jack had a breakout season, but this was out of necessity, as Seattle finished 34-48, missed the playoffs for the first time in 4 years. John averaged 12 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Gus returned to the team in 1981 under a new contract, and it would be business as usual in Seattle. But John was dealing with injuries and wouldn't make his season debut until March. Seattle was able to do good without him, as they finished 52-30. In his shortened season, John averaged 4 points, 1.5 rebounds, and 2 assists. As the Sonics faced Houston in the first round, he dropped 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 assists in Game 1 of a 3-game series win. The second round was against the Spurs. John had 15, 5, and 5 in Game 4, but this was in a losing effort. This was a close series, but San Antonio would win the series in 5 games. John retired after this season, and he would open up an aerobic studio and then a deli. He even spent 6 years coaching high school basketball before moving to California to be closer to his youngest son, Mitch, who was a starting point guard at Stanford. John would pass away on January 7, 2016, due to an undetermined cause. He was 68 years old. Even though John passed, the Johnson legacy is still going, as Mitch is now the new head coach of the Spurs. John Johnson was a rare breed for his era. As he said it himself, I was a point forward before they called it a point forward. I ran the show. I took the weight off all the guards. John was a player that could do a little bit of everything on the court, as he had the outside shot, great rebounding ability, solid defense, and most importantly, elite passing. He did so many things that contributed to winning, as once he got a major role on a contending team, he helped them win the title. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for introducing a different way to play the game, as his 2 All-Star appearances indicate how good he was when he got opportunity, as he should be remembered as being the first of his kind at the time. Man, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate y'all. The reason I came across John was, like, when I look for guys to do videos on, like, I'll just look at some of the older All-Star games, and I'll just look for names that I don't recognize, and I'll look at their careers and see, like, okay, this guy might be nice to do a video on. So I seen John Johnson. I'm like, okay, he's kind of like a point forward type of guy. Then I saw the highlights, especially with him in Seattle. Like, whoa, like this dude's like playing like Magic Johnson out here. Like the way he's passing the ball, he get the ball on the high post, guys start cutting, and he hit a guy with a crazy bounce pass like through somebody's legs, or he'll weave it through 3 or 4 people to hit them right where they need it for a layup. Like he was one of those types of passers. Or see somebody on the wing and throw it to them on the wing for the jump shot. There was one where he threw like a 3/4 court alley-oop. I'm like, oh nah, he's different. He's different. That play style wasn't really, I'm not saying it wasn't accepted, but a lot of coaches weren't really messing with that, because like the point guard is supposed to handle the ball and get all the assists. Like most of the small forwards then were guys who scored the ball, or guys who were like elite defenders. I mean, John was a mix of all of it. You know, he was definitely a mix of all of it. Like he definitely was a very underrated guy. As important as Dennis Johnson was to the Seattle Sonics team, John Johnson was extremely important too, because he was the main playmaker. Because Gus Williams and Dennis Johnson were the scorers. Dennis was playing defense, he was scoring, Gus was scoring, you know, so John was the one that was setting guys up. He was the guy that was, you know, getting the rebound and running the break, or throwing the outlet pass, or finding the guy, finding the cutter. Those glue guys that are super important to a championship team. And it's even cooler that his son is now the coach of the Spurs. That's wild. When you think of the Spurs, you think of Popovich. And now it's like the fact that he just passed it on to him, and he's been waiting in the ranks for like a couple of years. So good for him, you know. That team trusts him. Wemby trusts him a lot to lead this team. I hope he does well. I hope Mitch does well with the Spurs. I hope he does, because they have a squad. So hopefully he does well with that team. Thank you. I really appreciate guys for the support, man. You guys are really supporting the crap out of these videos, man. I really am thankful. I have so much fun making these. Like, I'm not gonna lie, these are super fun, just doing the research and like looking for videos and finding, like, once I find the footage. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate y'all. Be safe. Stay on the grind. Have a great day. I'm out. Peace.